Okay, again, welcome back. I'm your host, the Brandon Kelly. I'm here with Greg Hirsch out of Chicago, Illinois. We have an awesome opportunity to learn from him and his success today. And as we look at plan big, play big, and win big, Greg has definitely done some great things here in his space, and so we get an opportunity to spend some time with him, pick his brain, and see where he and his organization are going here in the future. So Greg, we're glad to have you on. I've got a list of all the accomplishments you have, but why don't you take a quick second and introduce yourself for all of our listeners, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good, Brandon. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you and tell my story. So I'm a Chicago guy, studied at a local college called Loyola University, and I studied philosophy. And I quickly realized that there was a lot of stuff that I just didn't understand. It was kind of a brick wall called Heidegger and Husserl. And, I think one of the first things I'd tell you about how to know yourself is know what your limitations are. And if you find a limitation, you got to just pivot and go around the wall. So for me, the wall was go to law school. And I went to law school and studied at a really great local school called Chicago Kent College of Law. And I became a litigator, and I litigated for a couple of years. And I didn't like that job because litigating can be not just challenging, but can be heart wrenching because it's an adversary position. And I got into commercial real estate. So I started at a boutique firm in the city called Baum Realty. I was there for 10 years, and I learned so many amazing lessons from representing large national companies on multi-unit rollouts. So what I do is I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I specialize in leasing, and I specialize in retail leasing, and I mostly specialize in representing tenants leasing space. So I'm like a really little subset of real estate. I'm about as narrow as you can get. The world for me is two-dimensional. I look at the first floor of everything, and that's where the opportunity lies for me. So it's a big flat surface, but it's a flat surface. And some of the clients that I've represented over the years were companies like Starbucks and Panera Bread and Chipotle. And sadly, I did the Washington Mutual rollout in Chicago where we worked on 186 transactions in 2 years. And if you remember the ads, they'd have a little thing, they blow up the bank real fast. And that's what it was like. We were unbelievable velocity. We do 30 or 40 transactions every 2 weeks. And these were pretty sizable for the time. And then I left Baum Realty, even though I love the entrepreneurial small company feel. And I felt like I was really making a difference, but I wanted to expand my geographic experience, the relationships across the United States and into Europe. So I went to a company called Newmark, and I was the leader of the Chicago group and one of the national group leaders of some of the different practice groups, especially when it came to technology integration. And I love Newmark. They're still a great firm. And what I loved about it was the opportunity to kind of expand the quality of the product class I was working on. So instead of just running around finding small shop space, I got to work on larger transactions, flagships on Michigan Avenue and some of our premier corridors. And I was the local leader for them. And then I had another opportunity to expand and go to another great company called Cushman & Wakefield, where I ran the Midwest region for them. And it was a similar kind of a setup. But ultimately, the entire time, I was still a broker. And so my day to day has been to serve my clients, to give them knowledge, to help negotiate. And I love that opportunity as well. But I think I had a bit of I don't know if it would be nostalgia from my roots at Baum Realty. And so 18 months ago, I decided to start my own firm, which is called Kirsch Agency. And we're 543 days old and counting. And we have 8 agents. And my goal for the company is to be 100 agents in 5 years and be in 3 to 4 cities, find great partners, build a business, and build something that has real accretive value to its partners, and then hopefully, ultimately, whoever takes it over when I'm too old, and I'll be the guy standing in the corner with the keys, opening up the storefronts when they need to get open. That's my sincere goal, that my subordinates today become my boss in the future.
So a buyout plan that pays you like an equity or even and I'm having a brain fart from getting hit by the dump truck, but Yeah, by the way, I wouldn't recommend getting hit by the dump trucks. I'm over 2 on that. I wouldn't put that on your bucket list, okay, Greg?
Fair.
But, as you look at that, it sounds like a great plan. I love the fact that you're counting 543 days. I love the fact that you're already planning on the 100 agents and what that means to you. And so we've got a lot in common to talk about today, and so I wanna kinda dive into that, but what was the challenge or the big moment where you said, "Okay, I'm gonna go off on my own"? So you've worked with some great companies. Assumably you're probably getting some pretty decent paychecks from those companies. What made you say, "Hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring, hang out my own shingle, and go out and play today"?
Yeah, I mean, I think every commercial real estate broker that I know, there are segments of the industry where that you get a salary. There are some where you may get a retainer, but for the most part, we're eat what we kill people. And when you meet a commercial real estate broker, you're meeting someone who doesn't know if they're going to get paid tomorrow, and they're living on fully commissionable revenue. And I've done that for 28 years. So all the money that I've ever made has been in conjunction with the transaction, and I partake in the value of that transaction. That's our compensation model. So when you meet a real estate broker, and it's not a brag, but it's a bit of an adrenaline um, thing, that you really want to um, service and move on to the next transaction and have multiple clients and multiple deals going at the same time. And it really serves kind of an ADD personality. And while I think that's been really great for 28 years, I keep going into the room. I love being in the room when I was 32 and competing against 55-year-olds. That was my favorite thing to do. I loved being the guy that, like, I knew a lot. I had a lot of passion. I had a lot of enthusiasm. And I was like a bull in the ring, and they were the old matador, and I wanted to just skewer them. And I think as you get old, you say, uh-oh, I'm the old guy now. I don't have the same energy. And in our business, I'm in retail, right? So when my clients approach me, if it's a retailer like Levi's or Coach or North Face, all of whom are clients, they want to understand that, am I their customer? And the 25 to 35-year-old is their customer. They understand the way that the consumer is thinking. And so I think the writing on the wall for me was, yeah, I may know more, and it's story time with Greg, and I've got lots of observations. But in order for me to create some accretive long-term value, I've got to own a company. And honestly, some of my best utility is counseling my clients. It's coaching my subordinate brokers. It's mentoring. It's helping them to develop their career just the way it was done for me. I had older brokers that held me along the way. I didn't get Starbucks on my own. That was Bob. I didn't get Panera on my own. That was Bill. I didn't get Under Armour on my own. That was Jim. And so I always had somebody that was helping me along. And that's the most rewarding, I think, aspect of the job. It's financially rewarding. So I'm kind of in it for the money too. But at the same time, I think the ultimate value that I have will be the mentorship and the careers that I make. And that's how it's going to be for me. I don't know if that makes sense. Did that answer the question?
That makes a lot of great sense. And as I look at things, I'm looking at a couple of the key standouts that came from that. And one was the enthusiasm, another one was your energy, and then the action and activity. So I in my mind, I was thinking Greg's kind of figured out the E equals MC squared type of a format, except for it's more of E squared and A squared equals results, right? So I'm not sure which one of us needs to coin that one on that one, Greg, but
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's you.
okay. But as we look at things, so what do you feel like have been a couple of your biggest plays where you felt like you'd stretched yourself or it was a gamble? Was it just going in on your own, or was there going after a specific client, taking a specific action that comes to mind that really was kind of a definitive or defining moment for you?
Um, Yeah, I'll tell you a story. It's kind of a funny one. So I kind of had hit my stride at this point. I think I was a good broker. I knew what I was doing. And I was retained and in our business, a lot of what we do is we're not retained. It's a handshake. I meet you. You say, Greg, go be a broker and find me a space. And I was working for a really major one of the major athletic apparel companies. They're very famous. It's not Nike. And I was referred the business by another broker in New York because our business is all about relationships. And Kenji sent me this piece of business. I was working on it. One day he called and he said, "I got bad news, Greg." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I just got fired." I said, "Why'd you get fired?" He goes, "It's a long story, but I got fired. And man, you're next because we're at the same company together. They're mad at us." And I said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose. This is a huge opportunity. It's $1 million fee. What am I going to do?" So I just sat there and I called everybody on the street where I just thought maybe something's coming up. Some lease is expiring. And there was almost no vacancy on Michigan Avenue. And one of the calls I picked up and the broker on the other end said, "Man, really great timing. You called me right now because we just had a huge vacancy coming up and I think it could be really good." I called on my client, and this is like probably hours before he's about to fire me. And they said, "Hey, what if I could get you this spot?" And he said, "Yeah, if you get us that spot, we'll put you on the Wall of Fame. We'll do the deal." So long story short, the senior executives from the company came out who had fired my predecessor on February 15th back in, I think this was 2011. It was freezing cold. It must have been 20 below. The guy was wearing a sports coat, no gloves, and a little stocking cap. And I couldn't understand it. I was all bundled up. And he said, "We're going to tour the market." And it's like there's nobody on the street. And we're walking the market. And he expected me to know everything about every tenant, the square footage, the sales, the lease expirations, everything. And I had spent so much time studying this market that I had all these answers. And then he said, "Okay, you're good enough. We'll keep you. We'll hire you." And that was the big game changer for me. That was the day when the year where I did almost $200 million worth of leases. And it kind of put me on the map as somebody that mattered in a market. And so the research component that was so important to my process that some people would criticize me for spending time, kind of a little bit of a bookworm on a Saturday morning, putting data in a database, that served me really well. And that was kind of my breakout moment was not getting fired. I didn't get
So
fired.
your Wall of Fame moment is not getting fired, but really what I heard was, it's attention to the little details that matter, right? It's the action. It's getting out, getting your hands dirty, and truly being involved in your market. Otherwise, somebody else is going to sweep in behind you and take it from you. Is that what is that a good way to compress that, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I think attention to detail, and I've mentored about 30, 40 different brokers that are in the market right now. And sometimes I'll get a proposal from them and I look at the label and I say, "Oh, you label your files the way I taught you to label them 20 years ago." And it comes back to me and I'll compliment them. I'll say, "Hey, nice job with the labeling methodology. That's how you need to label every file in every. So the attention to detail is hyper important. And there's no piece of information that you learn that may not be valuable in the future. So collect it, capture it, internalize it, use it for later. My Google Drive has over 275,000 documents in it. I never
Wow.
throw a thing away. I keep it. And by the way, some people would have said that's a bottomless pit of garbage, but now that AI is out there, it's not a bottomless pit of garbage. It is a repository of historical data that can be used to extrapolate really valuable conclusions in the future. So I would tell anybody this is a moment to collect last mile proprietary real time data that no one else has. That will be the differentiator between people's success and not success. If people rely on the general bucket that's out there, it's just there's no value there. The value is going to be what you know. So attention to detail is hyper important. It's been, for better for worse, my obsession for 30 years.
I would say that sounds like a pretty good obsession. So as long as you got a spouse in there too, then I'd say that's a perfect balance. So,
Yeah,
or
she puts
at
up with
least if
me.
you feel that way,
Yeah, she
that's
puts she puts up with me.
a. Yeah, I've been married 28 years too, so I get that.
Yeah.
So as we look at, would you consider that your biggest win then, or is there another kind of Hall of Fame moment for you that's really a big win outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna sound cheesy. I get it, and this is dumb. But for me, the Hall of Fame moments are the people that are my competitors and colleagues in the business my big success would be my business partner, Corey Black, who we've worked together for almost 10 years. And, he's been able to support his family and live a wonderful life. Partly, not all of. He's a great worker because of our collaboration. Or some of the people that are my competitors in other businesses, the fact that they're in this business and they're thriving and they're servicing clients because I was part of their career and I made a difference in their journey. That's far more important to me than winning some awards. I've won a couple cool ones. I got 40 under 40, which was pretty cool. And like, you're one of those guys at Cranes, and I love that. And broker of the year, big deal of the year. And this isn't even a lie. I had a box of trophies in the basement. They're these glass. They're beautiful. They etched them and they like leaded glass, and I tossed them all. I was like, they're just taking up space, and that's not what really defines. And if I can build a business now that, we'll probably change the name at some point. Like, I think the name has utility for the next 5 years, but at a certain point, we'll change the name. And if that thing has utility, if that thing could become a value, like the firm that I started at, Realty, which is still going strong, if I could do that, I would feel that is a great legacy.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing. So as I look at things, a lot of what we talk about on the show is like elevating your efforts to elevate your excellence. So getting eye to eye with success. And so do you feel like your staff or your team are performing at their best, or do you feel like there's things that are holding them back? What type of challenges are you facing, internally right now?
Um, I think all businesses they're going through a revolution right now with the introduction of AI. And everyone I talk to says, "Oh, I use AI and I type stuff in and I get a response back," which is really not what it's all about. AI integrations into processes are really, in my opinion, ostensibly the disintermediation of middle management. That an AI will become a prosthetic for all of your agents or actors to access a complex data pool, bypass constraints, service more stakeholders faster, more efficiently, and more accurately. I think our challenge as a business is like a little bit of drinking from a fire hose when it comes to the integration of technology solutions and then applying them to a business that was been so antiquated. And for your listeners who are into PowerPoint and Word and Excel, these kind of antiquated static deliverables are a thing of the past. They will merely be a fodder for a system to view and look at as an archaeologist might dig through bones. Your old files will be nothing more than evidence of an outmoded but valuable set of knowledge. I think the biggest complexity we have is that, number one, nobody wants to pick up the phone. And without human to human interaction, you can't learn. You can't learn on a text message. You can't learn really on an email. You can only learn by having a conversation. And these damn robobots calling everybody and spamming the heck out of them has made it so that people won't pick up the phone. And so one of our KPIs for our clients, especially when we represent landlords, is the quality of our phone interactions. And that's a challenge we're having. And we're using AI to assist us to make more efficient calls, to make more quality calls. As an example, before we make a call to a prospect, our AI integrations with our database and all our prospecting activity produces what I call a pre-prospecting dossier, or a summary of the
Uh-huh.
organization's interaction with a prospect. So that when I call them, I'm being very efficient. I'm not wasting their time. I'm summarizing relevant information. I'm not saying something that's irrelevant or submitting a site to a prospect that would have no interest. And even if I am submitting that way, I'm doing it in such a way that might yield another sales opportunity. So I think our challenge right now as an organization is, are we hitting our KPIs? Which, if they hit them, sorry guys, I'm going to raise them. If they exceed them, I'm going to raise them again. And I just want to continue to drive velocity because that's the service model we're selling. I'm telling folks that call us is either we're relentlessly canvassing to find the best sites for you, or we are calling every retailer or prospect on the planet to interest them in your property and elevate it against the competition. So my whole reason to come in every day is to drive that performance.
That's a great mindset, and I can tell that's one of the traits that billionaires have is that single improvement, that kaizen of improving one thing a day. and it's great to see how you're implementing that there with your staff, Greg. So,
Never be a billion. I'll never be a billionaire though, Brandon. I'll never be a billionaire. That's fine.
well, I won't show you the books that are around my office, but that's kind of on my target. I've actually mapped out 75 different businesses that I want to build out to a billion each. So that's kind of my quest at this point, and
Great for you.
right, put on the
I
life
hope it.
preserver, and
I hope.
so it is actually interesting because the other day I ended up spending 4 hours with a billionaire and sit down and dig through their mind and then see how they're taking AI to a new level and not just using it, for simplified tasks, but for summary of the PPMs, looking at the lease documents, looking up the backgrounds of investors and all of that fun stuff. It's amazing how they're utilizing that to grow and scale, and they've already successfully done that. They've achieved that titan status, so it's pretty entertaining. So as you look at it, what are your goals here for the next 3 to 5 years? Give us some big juicy ones that you're working on here, Greg.
I'd say the goal number one is to expand my headcount from 10 to, in 3 years, 50 to 60. Have three more offices in other cities. The technology platform that we're developing, and one of my equity business partner, Jason, who's on our website, all he does all day is build tools and technology solutions to make our job better. And so what will define our company, unlike our competitors who typically don't make their own dog food, they will buy third-party products. I believe that one of the intrinsic values that I will offer to an ultimate purchaser in 10 years is a very robust and the technology solution that is proprietary. The data is owned by us, and it will be a unique set of very bespoke tools for our business that's going to come with the package. I think our business is three things. It's recurring revenue, it's human beings, and it's a technology and data package. Those are the three pieces that we'll offer to an ultimate purchaser. And I think the goals for me is, from just a revenue standpoint, it's figure out how to be a $50 million a year business in 6 years, figure out how to be a $75 million business in 10 years, and then have somebody buy it. Now, the way that works in our racket is most brokers that work at a shop will take home 50 to 60% of their commissions on the commercial side. On residential, it's very different. You can get a job and do 80-20 for the first couple $100,000 in revenue and then take 100% after that. In commercial, it's a lot different. So there's a much heavier split that the company takes. But if you think about a 50 to $60 million business and you have 15 million drop into the bottom line, that's a business that's worth $60-80 million for somebody to buy. Just like the kind of the basic numbers. And that's the numbers that I've seen happen for some competitors over time in other markets. So it's not a crazy goal. I think it's a good.
So you're not shooting for 100 million or north of that?
Nah, I mean, no,
Okay.
I don't think that. Maybe, I don't know. You never know how this is going to go. There are a lot of complexities to the way commercial brokerages build their business. Some of them really try to take every dollar and bring it back down to the partners. And when you do that, then there's no meat on the bone for a subsequent purchaser. And others, they have very, very low splits, but they're larger companies. And so it's very onerous. And so they can't really grow headcount because it dissuades a lot of brokers from joining. I'm trying to find a happy medium. But at that same point, if my ultimate profitability, if I make $100 million, the profit's probably only going to be about 20. And I haven't seen many of my competitors get to that point. When they get really big, the dispersion of equity and it becomes really complicated. It's tough. So I'm trying to make reasonably accessible goals that I can think about every day because my brain is on the lower side of, it's like middle-sized brain. It hit the
But you've
wall
at
of
least still got a
Heidegger,
full
Husserl,
brain. I'm dealing with only a half a brain, so you know
which
you've got a full brain. I always applaud those that are using their full brain. So
uh,
makes me envious.
well, I mean, that's kind of the boring way to look at it, but it goes back to if 50 people can make a career and be collaborating with me and get value from a platform and advance their life, that's what matters for me. And it's not about the dollars. It'd be great, but you don't take it with you. So, if I die as penniless, that's great too. I just don't want to be penniless for the last 10 years of my life.
Absolutely, right? Okay, so as we kind of head down the home stretch here, what's on your heart? What is the message that you want to share right now to anybody that's listening, people in your office that aren't paying attention? What's on your heart that you want to have people play bigger and win bigger, or just truly dig deeper and go for the win?
I think these can be very demoralizing times for a lot of people and a lot of reasons. I was reading in the paper the other day that computer science majors have a 9.2% unemployment rate and anthropology majors are 2%. Probably because anthropology majors are taking the job at Chipotle and the computer science ones aren't. But this is a tough time. Tariffs are tough. Inflation is tough. This uncertainty is tough. Just social media is tough. Like everything is conspiring to weigh down on your psyche. And AI is tough. It's scary. It's a lot of like really frightening things are happening. But I will tell you, I don't think there's ever been a better time to start a small business. The amount of what you can do today with offshoring labor, with small technology solutions to handle what would have been like a full person, with decentralization, with not having to go into the office, with nimble tool sets and the ability to communicate with people all over the world all the time. I don't think there's been a better, more interesting time to start a small business, to make a difference, to get connected. Like it's not easy. None of this stuff is easy. It's not straightforward the way it was for my dad who got a job and they said, you're in the job and then you move and then you keep the job and you get retirement and here's your pension. Those days are gone. And what's replaced it is a much more chaotic, a much more interesting and fun time to be a profession and to make a difference in other people's lives. So I think that the takeaway is that no matter how hard things get, is like if you keep your enthusiasm, the other people around you are going to feed on that. They're going to feed on, and you can ultimately be a leader a lot quicker if you do that. Then I think before you had to really earn it to become a leader. Today, you just be one. I don't know.
Be
Does
and
that make
grow.
sense?
It absolutely
Yeah.
does. Well, you guys heard it here that Greg has figured out that formula to get in. Right now is the best time to truly be starting a business, making a difference, committing to people. And as I look back at all the great things we've talked about here today, Greg, I'm telling you, I love that E squared and A squared action plan. Taking your enthusiasm plus your energy and equating that to action and activity will deliver the results that you're after. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, how can they reach out to you, Greg? Especially if we're looking to be in that commercial space and you can help us be a tenant. Are you just in Chicago area, or are you going to be able to help service us across the country?
I am just in Chicago now, but you'll see soon I'll be everywhere. But I'm happy to make connections with people in other cities. The best way to get a hold of me is my website. You can see all of our team members, and it's Kirsch.agency, www.kirsch.agency. And I'm always there to offer counsel, help, advice. We are not transactional people. We're relationship and service people. And anybody who is thinking about, they have a random question about, especially retail, that's our world. I'm more than happy to help, and our team is standing by.
When you guys heard it here that Greg and his team are the experts in commercial and tenant law and getting those tenancies filled, and we look forward to seeing great things and big success back with Greg and his team here in the near future. Again, I'm the Brandon Kelly, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate being with you.